The Oklahoma City Thunder find themselves in such a weird predicament right now, right? This is crazy. So let's just put in perspective the last 4, 5, 6 months for the OKC Thunder. They trade their franchise guy Russell Westbrook to the Houston Rockets for Chris Paul. What has been Chris Paul's thing the last 3 years, pretty much ever since he joined James Harden in Houston? He can't stay healthy. A couple years ago, the Rockets were well on their way to defeating Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and a then healthy Golden State Warriors team. They had him beat. They had him up 3-2. Obviously, Chris Paul has the hamstring injury, lower leg injury. And then Harden and the Rockets go on to lose Game 6 and Game 7 in Golden State. And then in Houston in 7 games, right? They couldn't make a shot in Game 7 in Houston. Again, they had the Warriors beat in that series. Chris Paul couldn't stay healthy. And remember, after last postseason, as the Rockets lost to the Warriors again, remember when James Harden was asked in that post-game presser, he was like, pretty much a reporter asked him, what do you think needs to change about this team? And remember what James Harden flatfoot said? I think he had the red eye at the time. He said, I know what needs to change with this team. A lot of people thought, okay, he's probably talking about Chris Paul. He's smart. He understands it's going to be tough to trade Clint Capella. He understands, James Harden understands he takes a lot of the cap. He's one of the highest paid guys in the league. He understands guys like Eric Gordon. That's a bargain. The Rockets can't do a lot more. If he wanted a new coach, he could have got Mike D'Antoni fired a long time ago, but Harden's no fool. He knows his numbers are the greatest under Mike D'Antoni's system. So a lot of us just thought that Harden was talking about Chris Paul, and a month, 2 later, Chris Paul gets traded. So 9 times out of 10, Harden was talking about Chris Paul, whether he'll publicly admit it or not. It seems like Harden wanted Chris Paul out of Houston, and he got his guy Russell Westbrook, and thus far, Harden and Westbrook seem to be getting along. All right, Westbrook's numbers are down, but the Rockets, they're cruising through the season. They pretty much win most of their games. They're in a good spot right now, top 4, top 5 in the Western Conference. But let's focus on the Oklahoma City Thunder. You go trade for an injury-prone Chris Paul, thinking, this guy, he's owed a lot of money. Nobody really wants to trade for him. We're going to try our best to trade Chris Paul for more picks, because that's what the Thunder are doing right now. Obviously, they got a plethora of picks in the Paul George trade. Obviously, they got a few picks in the Rockets trade, right? But their thing is, let's stockpile as many picks as we can. Let's build around Gilgeous-Alexander. We got Danilo Gallinari for a bargain. He's a free agent to be this summer. Let's just kind of see what we got here. Steven Adams. Let's see what's his trade value like. Let's see what happens when we get Roberson back. But we want to rebuild. We want to be bad. We want to try to find the next Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and James Harden and Serge Ibaka in the draft, right? Well, the Thunder are actually pretty good this season, and Chris Paul is having his healthiest season in quite some time, knock on wood. The irony in this is, if Chris Paul was this healthy in Houston, he would have never been traded, right? Think about it. The Thunder have played 34 games. They're 19-15, which gets them at number 7 in the Western Conference, and they're hot as a campfire. They were one of the hottest teams in December, top 5, one of the best teams in the month of December. They've won 4 games in a row. They're trending up, right? Think about it. If Chris Paul was able to play, he hasn't missed a game. He's played 34 games for the Thunder this season. If he had committed to his body, which it seems like he's done, it seems like he felt like his guy Harden traded on him, that Rockets organization lied to him, and it seems like he's rededicated his body. He looks good, the best he's looked in years. He had a little bit of weight on him at a couple, he's had a little bit of weight on him. He's not fat or anything like that, but he's had a little chubby weight on him as an NBA player. He's gotten rid of all of that. Looks great. His body seems to be responding well. He's not overdoing it. He's only giving you about 16 points a game. That's probably a low for him in his career. But he's giving you 6.5 assists, and he's leading that team in steals, about a steal and a half a game. Most importantly, he is the leader of that team. Let's be clear. Everybody knows CP3 is the leader. And I feel like this is the first time in quite some time where CP3 has been definitively the leader of a ball club. I'd argue with those Clippers teams, Doc Rivers was the leader of that team. I'd argue that Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan and a couple other guys within the organization never wanted CP3 to be their leader. They felt like he just wasn't the greatest leader. In Houston, that was Harden's team. But we get in OKC, it's nothing but young guys who grew up watching Chris Paul play. Now you talking about Dennis Schroeder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who we're going to get to in a second here. You got guys who pretty much admire Chris Paul, and it looks like they're getting along with the guy. I don't like, because Chris Paul's married, right? I don't like when you have a guy like Chris Paul and Harden in the locker room from the standpoint of Harden is a savage out in these streets. All right, let's call a spade a spade. Harden has been known to have all the chicks you could think of. I'm not going to put anybody out there by name, but you go do your Googles on the TMZ type sites. Harden is out in these streets. He's a savage out here, right? Chris Paul's a married guy. I don't believe, from what I know, Chris Paul seems to be a faithful guy. I don't believe those two guys connect, right? I think that's been kind of the disconnect with LeBron and a couple of his teams. LeBron's the faithful guy. He's the relationship guy, the family guy. Well, what in the hell does LeBron have in common with some of the teammates who are around his age, like Lance Stevenson, who's single and out here in these streets? I think that's a bad dynamic in regards to just trying to build a team when guys can bond, right? Look, with Chris Paul now, I think the age gap is so far between him and the young guys, they almost look it up to him like big brother or uncle. That's how big the age gap is between him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, let's get into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Give you about 20 points a game, 19.9 to be exact. This dude is a star, and I didn't know that. Like, I knew he was good from the Clippers. I knew he'd be a good player in this league at some point. I did not expect him to be a star. This kid is growing up right in front of us. So now this creates this interesting conundrum for the Thunder. They're winning too many games. They want to lose games. They want top picks. Now, obviously, with the lottery being reconstructed with the format, we've seen teams like the Pelicans and the Lakers somehow, some way get those top 2-3-ish picks right in the draft. But overall, the Thunder want the best chance to get the number 1 overall pick as possible, and they're winning too many games. They're going to make the playoffs. They've distanced themselves. At one point, it was in the Western Conference, it was the 7-8 seeds, and then there was a little bit of gap between the top 6 teams in the West. Right? Obviously, we have the Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, you got the Rockets, the Jazz. I'm forgetting one team, but you understand the point that I'm trying to make here. You got Dallas as well. You got those 6 teams, and then it was just a fight, right? You got about 8-9 teams trying to make the playoffs. Phoenix has kind of fell off a little bit. Portland's, they're having an up and down year. San Antonio, they're all 3 of those teams are under 500. Minnesota's under 500. Sacramento's under 500. Memphis is under 500. The Pelicans under 500. Obviously, the Warriors are out of it. But the Thunder were in that round with those teams, but they're well over 500 now. They're competing every game out, and they've kind of creeped in. They're only 3 games back from Utah now in the loss column. So now they're looking around like, yo, maybe we'll be a 7 seed confidently going into the playoffs. And I think the Thunder organization, Sam Presti and company, they got to look around like, yo, what do we do? We're stuck. Do we trade Chris Paul right now? With him playing pretty good, if there's a contending team out there, let's say a team loses their point guard around the deadline, will we trade our guy Chris Paul? Miami's in contention out east. Would they be willing to trade? Miami's the 3 seed right now. They're 25-9. Do they believe that they could make a run at this thing? And do they go try to bring in a Chris Paul to put him around some of those young guys and Jimmy Butler? Or do they just kind of play it out? So you got things going on right now. If I'm the Thunder, you got to be careful, because it seems like I'm watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's literally letting Chris Paul coach him on the court. Right? Will you break that up right now? Or do you just let Chris Paul play his contract out? I mean, I don't have any tough financial obligations outside of CP3 as of right now. SGA's on a rookie deal. Dennis Schroeder's on a pretty beneficial deal for the team. You got Roberson. He'll be off the books in a year or so. I'm just wondering, if I'm the Thunder, how do they see this thing? The Thunder are entirely too good, and I'm sure their ownership group is like, yo, we did not expect to be this good. We did not expect Chris Paul to be this healthy. We did not expect Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to be this good this quickly. This team is all of a sudden playoff bound, and if I'm the 2 seed in the West, which right now is Denver, probably be the Clippers or the Lakers by the end of the season, I don't want to play OKC in the first round. We will beat them, but it might be a 5 or 6 game series for sure. Y'all let me know in the comment box below. What do you think about the Oklahoma City Thunder and their start to the 2019-2020 season? Yo, I think I got to go back to that point I made about CP3. Yo, dude ain't missed a game this season. If he would have gave Harden this commitment to his body, he'd still be in Houston right now. I'm out. You into sports, we got you. NFL news, I got you. NBA news, NBA highlights, NBA full coverage, feature stories, all that great stuff, I got you. We even got a little bit of Madden and 2K mixed in. Subscribe to this platform, and I got you. More quality content on the way. Subscribe.